Hello Bits and Bones, my name is Lady and welcome to my channel. Today's random shoutout is going to be for the artist Peter Mohrbacher. He makes crazy, wild, goddess, giant, titanic creatures. They are all so beautiful. He puts new content out like every single day, which I don't understand. This one and another one are my favorites, but honestly they're all beautiful and you should check them out. So today's going to be a little bit different. It's kind of a vlog, but also like a critical essay on problematic relatives and the infuriating nature of Facebook reposts. This video being the lighter of the two, you may lightly shake your head in annoyance over what I'm about to describe, but the next video will have some triggering content. I will reiterate that at the start of the next video, but I also just wanted to say that now, in case that both are available and you think you'd rather just jump to something juicier. They are two very different levels of discussion. So without further ado, this video is about trolls and shit disturbers. You know them, they're everywhere, but they manifest differently on different platforms. And I'm talking about the Facebook version, which creates their identity through inaccurate reposts and an active unwillingness to take responsibility for their actions. What I would say is special about Facebook trolls is that they not only separate themselves from accountability with what they post under the excuse that someone else wrote it, they're just passing it along. When they post something that people call them out on, there's two responses. They either defend themselves, that obviously they know better, they were just sharing a post for blank message, which is stupid in and of itself because if they had any awareness for what was wrong with the post, they wouldn't have felt so compelled to share it along as their own opinion. It's a process of regression where they'll only justify parts of what they've circulated despite never drawing attention to their stance before being confronted. And this practice will come in heavily in my next video's discussion. And then, despite openly backpedaling on how much they agree with their own post, for some reason, they are much too headstrong to take it down or take any accountability. The second response is something along the lines of, and this is a defense against literally everything. Facebook trolls post variations of this sort of humor and self-justification at least once a week, because they don't care if they distribute lies or offend people. They're okay with being an asshole, so everything is magically supposed to be ignored. It's like what's come to be understood about Trump supporter mentality, where getting any rise of the negatively affected party that just wants admittance of responsibility gets immediately discredited because they're overreacting. It's always just a joke, and they're just saying. In case you're wondering why I've settled on calling accounts that behave this way trolls instead of assholes, is because Facebook is a platform of open discourse. Where some places you can make a post into oblivion that only strangers will see, Facebook trolls intentionally post things to get a rise out of their friends and family, argue with them rather than accept fault over problematic posts, then continue to shrug it off and maintain their negative behavior. You're an asshole if you're rude and don't know enough to care. You're a troll if you have brains enough to know what you're doing is wrong and do it anyway. You're a troll if you indulge in behavior that you see negatively impacts others, but get enjoyment out of it yourself. And, just as a side note, being an asshole is not a personality. Being edgy or opinionated is not the same thing as what has now become a norm on Facebook of praising intentionally bad behavior. People that make posts like the Kermit one are trying to set themselves apart from the pack by embracing what's considered a negative descriptor and saying you're okay with being an asshole, although actually being one is not the same thing. For example, if you're actually a piece of shit who kicks dogs or cheats on spouses, so on and so forth, in no situation, trend, or community should you feel okay with internalizing that. It's a negative descriptor for a reason. There is no reclaiming or justifying it. It's not like the F word or the N word, where it doesn't belong as a negative descriptor. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. It's not good. Stop praising yourself for it. Now that I've got the setup rant out of the way, here's a specific example I came across that prompted this video so we can dissect it, condemn it, and solemnly swear to oppose Facebook trolls from the free reign that they have acquired. Here's an easy, low-key, and extremely annoying post by a Facebook troll. Before anyone gets curious, yes, unfortunately, these are all posts by my extended Facebook circle and family. It's disheartening, and as much as I'm not calling them out personally because they'll never see this and likely not change their ways anyway, I do hope to address a prominent problem Facebook reposting has cultivated. Now, this post presents itself as fact. It gives itself a specific timeline by declaring this is the protocol for wearing masks during coronavirus put out within the last day, which would be fine if it were accurate. The information in the post is months old, and the user reposting it is well aware their province has already made it mandatory to wear masks everywhere possible. This post aims to misinform and divide people who do and don't believe in wearing masks, the latter of which I can't even begin to get into right now because it is infuriating. So, what's the appropriate response to a post like this? I went with a civil response, informing them the information they are spreading is incorrect and they should be aware. This is the response that I received. Y'all think I give a shit? I like when people get riled up. This is not an appropriate response, and it's a prime example of the responsibility shirking I previously mentioned. Why should anything they post or say have to be held at face value? Even though, obviously, they care enough about being heard to bother posting these things in the first place. Cultivating a life around misinforming the public and knowing better but doing bad things anyway is honestly the most disgusting human behavior I can think of. I don't see the enjoyment that comes with a life constructed on lies because it has no value. It's nothing but a plague against the progression of humanity. No matter how small and insignificant you may be, your output is still a net negative. And what's good about that? What's funny about being less than worthless? I am getting a bit harsh. I'm not summing up a whole existence over one post, but that is how I feel about those who continue to participate in these sorts of practices. I made this video to point out a growing problem on Facebook and how it is cultivating this culture of trolls. The worst part is, Facebook isn't populated by kids anymore. It's not rampant with emo teens copying, pasting, and answering long, irrelevant lists about the movies they have and haven't seen in notes like anyone cares. That just made me very dated. These are middle-aged adults acting like shit-disturbing children and giving themselves a free pass, and I am not for it. If you see your relative or friends indulging in this intentionally triggering behavior, don't just roll your eyes and scroll by. Even if they shrug it off or laugh and say you have a stick up your ass, we can't condone this culture of misinformation. This is how anti-maskers in a world with a pandemic make themselves feel justified when there is simply a right and wrong answer. They need to know they are wrong, suggest that they take it down, and honestly cut them off from our life if they refuse. Not over this specific issue, but the behavior in general. We're not children anymore. We should be accountable for the things we say and do. And if you act like a little shit, you should have to go sit in the timeout corner. I don't care how old you are. If you have anyone in your life who acts this way, feel free to share your own rant in the comments below. Just let it out, my friend. This was a means to contextualize how Facebook breeds misinformation in a culture of people that perpetuate it and feel justified in it. But my next video will be about how Facebook reposts create a bubble. A bubble in which insidious agendas are spread and how users that indulge in it hide under the idea of plausible deniability. I know this isn't my usual content, and I'd like to thank you for watching. Although it does in many ways feel trivial, it is also very important that we talk about this and we do not condone this. My name is Slady, and I will see you in the next video. Change of tone! Shout out to my one and only patron, Rachel. Again, Rachel forever. Rachel is my best friend. If you'd like to support me, I have a Patreon linked in the description below. I really appreciate it as I branch out and try to make more frequent videos because I don't have to do as much setup. I've got this black screen now. I hope that you'll be, one, more pleased with the output of content. The content will be more varied because I don't have to do quite so much for it. And lastly, just I would appreciate any support generally so I know that I'm not wasting my life away talking into a void. Thank you.